Hi, this is Kara from the Special Needs Mom podcast.
And this is Angela from Especially Organized, Sensible Solutions for Special Needs Moms.
We have this heart for special needs moms. And so we thought, you know what, let's combine forces. And we have come up with what we're calling the Purge Party. And you can pretty much guess what it is. It's a party where we're going to come together and we're going to purge, or in general, accomplish a goal, a small goal together. So we have set this for January 27th, starting at 8 o'clock for my Pacific Coast people,
which means 11 o'clock for all of you on the East Coast. So this is an opportunity. If you have something on your to-do list that has just been stuck there and you are wanting to move it up on the list, you're wanting to tackle, maybe it's a space or an area of your home or a category in your home that has just needed a little time and attention. This is your opportunity for you to be online with us while you work and have access for us to help you answer your questions, help guide you, and just serve you for those 2 hours.
Yeah, exactly. And I think you can tell like what we've designed is just this very high level of support for that project that you just haven't been able to tackle on your own. The thing that we are envisioning is that you get to leave this purge party feeling so accomplished because you did the thing. You started the year off getting that thing done that you were stuck on last year. And so it's a momentum builder, if you will. You can go ahead and sign up. We have a link ready for you. And we are offering this for $40 for the whole experience.
Absolutely. And we hope you'll join us. I think it's going to be really fun. It's going to be a great group of moms of special needs kids. So we all get each other. We all have an understanding of what it's like to have something on our to-do list, but just we haven't been able to tackle it yet. So I hope that you will join us. We're super excited to bring this to you, and we are thrilled to work with you.
All right. We'll see you all there. Hi, I'm Kara, life coach, wife, and mom to 4 incredible and unique children. It wasn't all that long ago that my son received a diagnosis that had my world come crashing down. I lacked the ability to see past the circumstances, which felt impossible, and the dreams I once had for my life and family felt destroyed. Fast forward past many years of surviving and not at all thriving, and you'll see a mom who trusts that she can handle anything that comes her way and has access to the power and confidence that once felt so lacking. I created the Special Needs Mom podcast to create connection and community with moms who find themselves feeling trapped and with no one who really understands. My intention is to spark the flare of possibility in your own life and rekindle your ability to dream. This isn't a podcast about your special needs child. This is a podcast about you. If you are a mom who feels anxious, alone, or stuck, then you are in the right place. Welcome. Hello and welcome to the Special Needs Mom podcast activation session. Y'all didn't see me, but I made like a cute little hand movement, like to say activation session. I don't really think that worked for a podcast, but I thought I'd explain to you what was happening behind the scenes there. Okay, so today is an activation session. Cue hand movement. And I'm very excited to share with you this mom, Amber. And if you identify as a type A, as an achiever, as somebody that has a pretty intimate relationship with their to-do list and their planner, then this episode is going to fit your fancy. So listen up. And if you find yourself thinking, okay, like I relate to her, I want a little more direction, I'll have you consider 2 things. First, sign up for your own activation session. I give this caveat on all of my activation sessions, and I feel like I'll put it out there for y'all. When I get on to record, because the idea is like it's essentially a coaching session, a mini coaching session that's displayed before all to see. So I totally get that may not feel comfortable for you. And so at the beginning of every recording, I tell my guests, if you decide that this is not to be a podcast episode, that it was just an activation session, then good. That's not a problem, that we have space for that. And so I say this and share this because maybe it'll make it feel a little teeny weensy bit more comfortable for you to sign up for your own activation session and walk away with a next step. The whole idea behind the name of activation session is like you get your next step, whatever that is for you, of moving towards a space or experience, I would say, of what you're looking for, and even identify what's missing for you or kind of what's in the way. The link to sign up for an activation session is on the show notes. So you will see that. If you click on show notes, you'll see at the bottom, activation session. The other thing I would have you consider is inquiring about Pathway to Peace, the coaching program. Clearly, the activation session is a mini session. So while it is, yes, valuable, it perhaps is the start of something. It's not necessarily the thing in and of itself. And the thing actually is Pathway to Peace. It actually is the program that I've designed for you from a perspective of both coach and mom who is right there with you. And one of the things I get often is that a lot of my clients have done therapy and or coaching, mostly more therapy. But what was missing for them is that the person that they were working with didn't understand what their life was really like. And so I think that is something that I can offer and that makes this program really powerful, that you're with people that totally get you, that you have the tool of coaching, and you have the community. So the Pathway to Peace fall cohort is starting in September. And so what that means is now is the time to sign up for a consultation, which is just a conversation between you and I, where you get to explore, hey, is this something that I might be interested in? Right. Just like the activation session, the link is in the show notes, and there's a lot of ways to reach me. So you'll figure out how to reach me. We'll figure it out. I look forward to meeting you. And with that, I look forward to you being with Amber as she shares her life with us, as she shares her behind the scenes. And I think you will share my admiration for her as she is a mom who is working her tail off. Just so amazing. And yet she's not getting to experience the gift of who she is for herself. All right, let's listen to this activation session. Well, Amber, I'm very excited to have our activation session together. And I know a little bit about you from your application, but I'd love to hear straight from your lips, just a little snapshot of your picture. So tell us a little bit about what your motherhood journey looks like, a little bit about kind of how you spend your days.
Okay, so as far as my motherhood journey, I have a son, Elliot, who's 5. He's about to start kindergarten, which is super exciting, but very busy right now. And my daughter is 3 years old, and she has a mild form of cerebral palsy called spastic diplegic cerebral palsy. And she also has severe autism, and she's had a number of other diagnoses by a whole lot of different specialists. She's had a total of 7 surgeries in the last 2.5 years. And also I'm a veterinarian. I own my own practice, and life is crazy. Life is super, super busy all of the time. And I've been married to my husband for 10 years, and he's a big support system in all of this. But I just feel like things are just a little nuts sometimes.
Yes. And I think a lot of people will relate to you. And you said you have a son as well, who's 5. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So life feels a little bit crazy. And so I know it's your practice. So even if you don't work full time, like it's fully your practice. So you can't necessarily part-time that, but how much in terms of your life do you spend doing work things versus more mom and other life things?
I do work full time, and my job requires being on call and working Saturdays also. And I am off one day during the week guaranteed. And it's usually Wednesdays for me. And we spend Wednesdays doing therapy and going to Children's Hospital and whatever other doctor's appointments, orthotics fittings, things like that. They're very, very full. I feel like I'm usually more exhausted on my day off than I am after my day of work.
I can 100% understand why you would feel that way. Okay. So you have a very full life, as you said. And something that you shared with me is that you want less anxiety and you want less worry and you want to have more of an experience of being in control of your life. I would love to hear just a little bit about those areas as well as having confidence that had you share that with me.
Well, I feel like in order to get where I am as far as in my career and in my life in general, I have to be very organized. I'm on top of things. I'm on time. I'm super, super type A kind of personality. And I always feel like things have to go a certain way. And of course, having a child with multiple disabilities, that doesn't always happen. And even though I really try, I work so hard to make things work all the time. They don't always work. And it's very frustrating. And not being totally in control of every aspect of my life is definitely really hard for me.
Yeah. What do you feel like is the cost for you of trying to keep that control and have that experience?
Sometimes I feel like it's my own mental sanity.
Yeah.
Like I keep it together for my family and for my kids especially. And whenever I'm just by myself, I just break down. So that was probably not the greatest answer, but
There's no right or wrong answer. There's the honest answer, which I think is the most valuable answer, especially because I absolutely know that you're not the only one that experiences this. But zoom back a little bit, I think what we could see as a picture in looking at this with all the compassion in the world is a mom that is working really, really hard and trying to hold it all together. And the experience of constantly trying to hold it all together has us working really hard and yet also not feeling like we're succeeding. And so there's no amount of effort or work that can actually get us that relief that we're looking for. And so we find ourselves like really not ever getting to experience rest or satisfaction, peace, or like you said, like stability, like to where you're just like, man, like this is going to be a long life if this is what it's like.
it's like there's like no end in sight for any of it, right?
Precisely. Yeah. So we have what I call the evolution of the special needs mom. And it's just kind of the pattern I broke up, I gave words to what we see to identify kind of where we are in our evolution. Again, not that there's like a destination to get to, but just kind of understanding where we are, what works in that area and what maybe we want to have different. And I think that experience in this stage 2, which is kind of where I probably would put you in terms of kind of this, what you've described to me, is that we end up really having, and this is actually the thing that launches us into stage 3, and that is we end up having this experience of like, I don't want to do this for the rest of my life. Like, of course, I love my children. I love parts of my life, but I don't like how they're all working together. And I especially don't love this never having satisfaction and rest, because my guess is that deep down that you can't work harder. Is that true?
I try. I mean, it's not that I don't try to keep working harder, but sometimes it takes my husband to kind of reel me back in and say, I'm doing a little bit too much. I need to sit down.
Yeah. In my own work and practice and what I'm, going through myself is I'm kind of recognizing that this is happening for me as well, where we attempt to outwork our anxiety, outwork our worry. You can tell, like you can only imagine how you can never fully control enough to actually succeed in that. It doesn't feel like that when we're trying to do it. It feels like, oh, if I just do this one thing, or if I plan this one thing, or 1-1-1, then we'll get to where we want to go. And what I'd say is that there's no amount of doing that can actually give us the experience of that rest and satisfaction, peace, whatever it is that you would describe what you're looking for. Any thoughts on that before I move on to the next question?
No, I think you hit it right on. And I'm just one of those people who wishes there were more hours in the day so that I could sleep more, so that I could get more things done. It's hard. You're exactly right.
And that's where we know what's interesting is, let's just say we gave you 2 more hours of the day. you would get 2 more hours worth of things done. And guess what? You'd be in the exact same situation because it's not about the doing. It's not about what we're getting done or not getting done. It's about our relationship to those things. And so let's actually kind of turn to look at maybe future. Let's kind of create a little future to understand a little bit more about what you might be looking for. So I want you to think about your experience with anxiety and worry and confidence and just feeling like you have agency in your life. And I want you to pretend like you have this really awesome magic wand and that you can sprinkle it with pixie dust all over your life. And you can create an experience in these areas or any others that you want to have. Let's just say like 6 months from now, like this wand really is starting to do its magic. What do you see for your life? What would be different? What might be the same?
You mean like my life with my kids or my life in general?
All the areas.
All the areas. Okay. I feel like if I had a magic wand, I don't know. I think that's kind of hard to answer because I'm happy with how my kids are doing overall, both of them. And especially Genevieve. I mean, she's made a whole lot of improvements and she's done a lot more than I think a lot of her therapists and teachers have thought that she would up to this point. And so I'd like her to continue on that path. But as far as like for me, I think I would like just a little bit more peace of mind. And I don't know. I just always feel like no matter what I'm doing, it's not enough for some reason. And I think I'd like to change that, but I'm not 100% sure how.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, definitely. And you can see how that would be pretty hard if you're trying to prove that you're enough by doing things that like you were describing, like there's not enough time in the day. Like it's an impossibility. And so you're trying to prove this through your doing, and yet it's like an impossible achievement. And so that's how we know there's an opportunity for you to create a different relationship with what you do. More importantly, I'd say even deeper is like who you are.
Yeah.
Really looking at that, like, okay, well, what is in the way of peace and what would actually have you experience sufficiency and trust that you are enough, that you have done enough. Because you can only imagine like rest is impossible from the place that you're looking at. Like there's no amount of doing that could make you quote unquote deserve rest or feel peaceful enough to rest. And I think it's really interesting actually how you're like, actually, my kids are really great. Like they're doing awesome, which I think speaks to how hard you are working, but that it's like at the cost of you and your experience. Is there anything else that comes to your mind in terms of like if this magic wand can kind of swoop over your life, what you would change?
This is a really hard question.
You're like, I don't think I haven't, that is not on my list. I have not been thinking about that. I've been thinking about all the things I need to do.
Right. I'm like, I'm in the here and now.
Yeah.
No, I feel like there's not a whole lot about my life in general that I would change. Like I said, I have a good relationship with my husband, my kids, all that. It's more just a mental battle that I fight every day. And I don't know, I guess part of that is, family and coworkers and things like that, not necessarily understanding what I'm going through. But that's not their fault. It just kind of is what it is. And it adds to stress in general.
Yeah. Would it be fair to add to that list, the magic wand list, being known and understood?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. Anything else? I don't want to leave anything out. If that's it, that's also very okay.
I think that's it.
So if we kind of put you back and map you on to the evolution, we see this transition that you're in. Why? Because you're having this conversation. You're saying, I don't want it to go like this forever. And that is moving from that stabilized yet self-sacrificing into, again, what I call the rebellion. And the rebellion really is against this all or nothing, this self-sacrificing experience where it's like your kids and husband are all doing pretty well, yet you're having the experience where you're not experiencing a lot of joy and reaping the satisfaction of how well your daughter is doing. Because we know that didn't come without a lot of calls and all the support that you have provided her. And of course, your son. So moving into that rebellion piece, of course, will require you to let go of the doing, which can be completely unsettling because that's where you're kind of getting your security right now. I'm curious if you think about paying attention to your energy when you are doing the doing. Like, even if you think about it now, what do you notice?
My own energy. I feel like it's just constant planning, right? So I work full time on top of doing all of this for Genevieve. And it feels like every morning I have to make myself a list of all the phone calls I need to make at lunchtime, because that's the only hour in the entire day that I have available. And also all of the specialists are open and, making appointments and things where I can check my email, make all the phone calls, and then try and schedule it all and hope I didn't double book myself, which I do occasionally. And then calling the therapist to say we won't be there that day. It just feels like it's just constant overdrive, on top of the stress of work and just trying to make sure that I'm there for my son at the same time and feeling like he's pushed out of the picture, which is not fun either. I guess that was a lot of things, but that's how my brain works. Just like that. It's just constant going. Yeah.
And here's what's interesting is that my suspicion is that I'm going to call it over planning it served you at one point. I mean, I'd say it to some extent serving you now, minus the part where it's creating anxiety. But at one point it was very helpful, but it's kind of, you've taken it so far into the over category where it's kind of overdoing something, thinking that it can do something that it can't. So like you're looking for, we'll just say peace in planning, but planning can't offer you peace, unfortunately. Because if it did, I'd definitely have a lot of peace. I get this one a lot, actually. It is, like I said, like something I definitely see happening in my own life too, where I want to kind of calm the chaos and I try to do it through planning and I don't find it there. It actually creates more anxiety because you see how much more is unsorted. You see how much more is undone. So it actually now is doing the opposite of what you're looking for it to do. So the thing that I would help you outline, I'll explain a little bit about what I would suggest, and that is mapping out your behaviors and the triggers that cause them and then the results that they're creating. So this is in service of actually just creating a lot of awareness, almost just to be like, I'm going to do everything I'm doing. Like I'm going to live my life. I'm not going to change anything. You're going to likely notice when you're actually doing the behavior. So for you, the behavior that I want you to consider is over planning. And you're going to know it's over planning because you're never going to feel like it's done. You're going to feel like you didn't have enough time, all the things. Like it's going to have that lacking energy for you. So that's the behavior I want you to look for. And so when you notice that, that's your red flag. That's your cue to be like, oh, something's going on here. You get to get curious. And the questions I want you to ask yourself, and I would even have you write them down. What was the trigger? What was happening for me right before I was doing this behavior? And just see what you notice. You might say, oh no, it was like just the morning. It's like, okay, the morning is the trigger. You might say it was the fact that your kids start school in a week. I don't know what you'll say, but just notice what is there for you when you think about the trigger, about like the thing that is stimulating the behavior. And then I want you to notice the result that you're producing. So when you're over planning, what's the experience that you're having? Like, what's the result that is producing? And I think, we already kind of said, like, it's probably producing the desire to do even more, or it's producing an experience of lack. So map that out. And the idea here is, again, like we get to then see it with the idea that all this is a habit that your brain has figured out how to do. And now it's doing it automatically without even thinking about it. And so we have to be able to see a habit to break a habit. So the idea here is this helps us really see what's going on for you. And maybe we see, oh my gosh, this happens only in the morning. Or maybe we see it happen all day long. It's nothing more than observation and information. So thoughts and questions about that specific practice?
No, that makes total sense. I can definitely do that.
Okay. So I think that's actually a great place to leave you. And I'll check back. I'll give you about a week to be able to map this out and we can talk through. And I'll give you some other tools and whatnot offline here. But try it for a week and let's see what you come up with and see what you notice. And I think if you do want to change something as a result of what you're seeing, allow yourself, but don't ask yourself like, oh, I have to change anything that I'm doing. We're just trying to map it out. Well, Amber, thank you so much for sharing your true and authentic self with us because you're just such a model of, I think, a mom that is kicking ass and not able to reap the benefits of her labor, as in lay back and celebrate and bask in the beauty that you are. And so I'm hopeful that this will be the start of your shift into being able to have that balance where you get to experience the good, the light, the easy, along with all the other things that you're carrying. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
You're welcome. One more thing before we officially wrap up this show. Sometimes when I'm listening to podcasts, I have the experience of wanting more. I'm listening at the very end thinking, I sure wish that episode didn't end. I invite you, if you feel in any way the same way, I invite you to the Special Needs Mom podcast community, which is a free group that I host on Facebook, where we as a community of fellow moms who listen to this podcast and are experiencing life in similar shoes, get to talk to one another, get to share stories, get to actually interact. I hope you'll consider joining. See you over there.